Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another one! Another one!
Huge hole. He's at the 30. He's going to go. 10, 5, touchdown, Jonathan Taylor.
Galloway finds Rob Finnessy, who fires the three, and
He hit it.
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard here on this Monday. NCAA tournament is here, and we've got a lot to talk about as the conference tournaments have finished. The selection committee has made their intentions known, I guess you'd say. Indiana gets in as one of the last two teams in. Surprised me. I'll be honest with you. I did not expect to see them in Dayton after the weekend that they had. But that's what it is. And they are, in fact, headed to Dayton to take on Wyoming. Don Fischer is going to be along to join us. We'll talk to Charlie Miller. We'll talk about all of the matchups, who's going where. In Indiana ended up playing Wyoming because Notre Dame and Indiana were the last two teams in, FYI. And that's who normally would have played. But because they had played in the regular season and because Indiana had played Rutgers, who was also one of the last four teams in, they ended up playing Wyoming, which may be a better situation because you haven't played them. I'm just still surprised that Indiana was the last four team in. And on top of that, that ends up putting them out in Portland, which, gee whiz, if you have looked, and most of you probably haven't, but that's about the most expensive place they could have sent Indiana, without question, if you're having to follow them. That I promise you. Hello, everybody. Lots of people already. Wow, already on here. Leon asked, why is a 12 seed a play-in game? He would think all the 16 seeds would be playing play-in games, is what I think he meant. Well, because the 16 seed teams are teams that won automatic bids from conferences that are simply not as good as the 12 seeds. But the 12 seeds are actually bonus seeds, so that's why you're lucky to get in the tournament. But those other teams are just not as good as those 12s, if that makes sense to you, Leon. There you go. So that's why right there. The conference committee doesn't want to make a conference champion have to play a first four in, so those play-in games are for at-large bids only. Exactly what I was trying to say, but in a much better way. Shimbatory 66, thank you very much. Tebow listening from Orlando this morning. Any word on Geronimo? Nope. They'll keep that close to the vest. A little gamesmanship. Who's your fan for life says evidently that Illinois win was the biggest win of the season. Oh, no, without question. Indiana would have been NIT bound without it. Yep. Without question. And I did not imagine that. I really didn't. I certainly did not imagine that they were going to be in the last four in. And I can't believe they were the last two in. Now, some of that had to do with things that happened around them. Other teams that won, didn't win. Texas A&M, was it Texas A&M that made the SEC final and did not get in? Riddell Jones said it best, whether you're the number one seed or the last team in, lace them up and go play. There you get to go. Dayton teams shouldn't have to go to the West Coast next. You know what? That's a great point because, first of all, and I talked to Don about this because his voice is probably feeling it, but you just played 3 grueling games in the Big Ten tournament. And now you got to go play on Tuesday. Then you've got to fly to the West Coast. Come on, man. They are making it as difficult as possible. I truly believe that. That's a little ridiculous. You couldn't have had some consideration and put them in the East? I mean, give me a break. It's just like, how bad can we beat on somebody? I agree with you, Michelle. And here is a good point. Not being in the last 4 in is not necessarily a death sentence, as Forrest is pointing out. UCLA was in Dayton last year. And they should have made the championship game. Mike thinks that Indiana was disrespected by the NCAA. Well, I think sometimes they purposely go out of their way to not show favoritism because they're in the state. And they don't want to pretend that they're showing favoritism, but man, oh man, it's like they go too far the opposite way. But I do. I don't think that they did them any favors at all. It is what it is, right? Donald Singh on. Dwayne's on. A lot of people jumping on it early, man. Winning does that for you. And then Michigan gets an 11 seed and gets to play in Indy. Yeah, that was a little. I think that should have been reversed, to be honest with you, personally. But it is what it is. So there's no complaining about it. I mean, 1 year ago, if I don't think people would have said, no, I'll complain about it if they're in the NCAA first 4 in next year. Probably not. So they got to get in. And that's what matters. These guys have never seen the tournament before, man. And I'm telling you, at the press conference, after losing to Iowa, they weren't down like I had seen them in some games, some losses this year. They're ready to go play again. They were ready to go play again. I'm sure they weren't happy about the loss, but they were ready to go right back out and play, which is a great sign because they're on a little bit of a heater. I mean, you had some luck that could have gone your way, but they could have won that game outright against Iowa. And I truly believe had they beat Iowa, now they would have won the damn Big Ten tournament championship. If they could have maintained and not worn out from fatigue, that would have been a lot to ask. But I like where they are. I like how they're playing. Trace Jackson Davis, holy moly. You want to talk about a man who has gone on a tear. I mean, Xavier Johnson, I'm not overlooking him, what he has done. But Trace Jackson has done this off and on this entire season. But man, oh man, he went through the Big Ten tournament. Keegan Murray, this Friday, I've already texted with Jeffrey the Greek, and I'm probably going to say, in retrospect, Keegan Murray should have been the player of the year in the Big Ten. But now that got me to thinking, That would have given Iowa back-to-back players of the year in the Big Ten. And yeah, I know that they just won the Big Ten tournament, but they haven't really made any noise in the NCAA tournament. And you've had back-to-back players of the year? Well, they didn't really have players of the year, but wondering if he shouldn't have been. He's a bad man. That Keegan Murray is just, man, dude can hit. He can shoot. He's smooth. Good kid. Yeah, he's something, man. He's something. Forrest thinks Indiana's in for Dayton for television to make money. Normally Dayton gets 5,000-6,000 fans. It would be packed on Tuesday. It certainly will. Scott says, want a better seed, play a better non-conference, and win more games. It's simple. Well, there is that. That's as simple as you can put it. That's exactly right. Had they been able to come together a little sooner, this is a team that would have easily been a top 4 team in the conference. But there's no point in saying what if and this, that, and the other thing, because it's not. It is what it is. What are looking forward to talking to some of the other conferences later on today. Kentucky went down. Duke goes down. Big names. Big names as we get set up. Who are your favorites? How many of you are doing and don't forget thehoosier.com. Talk about a crazy promotion. Make sure you go there. $22 for the entire year.
I've also just set up a ESPN bracket challenge called Indiana Sports Beat Radio. That's all you have to do is type in that title on the ESPN Tournament Challenge app, and you get 1 entry per user, and we'll figure out if we want to give away a prize to the winner.
We don't figure out. We will give a prize to the winner.
Well, you've said before, and I feel like sometimes you don't give away things that you say you're going to give away. That's why I said maybe.
No, we give away visors or whatever. Why in the world would you say that? We've never had a contest.
I guess that's true.
Well, it is true. I know we've never had a contest. But if you do one, we'll certainly give something away for it. Absolutely. Hey, we're getting close to taking a break too, right?
Yeah, we can go ahead and take one if you're ready.
But don't miss out on any of the exclusive coverage from recruiting at thehoosier.com. Seriously, they've got an incredible special. 88% off. First year, $22. That's crazy. Go there. Your promo code is IU Madness. The offer is valid through March 17th. Also, don't forget, we're brought to you by the WOW Network. All the great places located in the WOW Network, whether it's Southern Stone Restaurant, Feast Market and Cellar, Cabello, the Allery, the Courtroom, BB's Marketplace, all kinds of, and BB's is the former Wagon Wheel, by the way, but fresh meats there. You've got it all covered. And go get your WOW card. Make sure you get that at either of your apps, whether it's Apple or Galaxy. They both got you covered. We got plenty more coming up. Don Fischer is going to join us next on Indiana Sports Beat. Back with it right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting Bloomington.
All right, so Don is at 9. Man, these new times. Whew.
They're not new times anymore. But we did just have clocks.
I meant that. That's not, my body does not function well to that.
It feels like you're getting up even earlier now.
Yes. Because you are, in essence. I'm out of coffee.
Morning, Don.
Hey, John, how are you?
Well,
Hear me okay?
yes, sir.
Okay. Get all my crap over here. Oops. Okay. Charlie joining us today.
I have not heard from him, but he should be.
Hello, Don. How are you, sir? I'm surprised you have a voice left.
Well, it's interesting. I woke up this morning and felt like I had a cold, which is
me too.
never fun, but that the voice held up rather well. I was pretty impressed with 3 days in a row for an old man to be
Sound normal as can be.
Yeah, I was liking it. I think sometimes, and this is the truth, I think it's why NBA guys can do game
10
after
seconds.
game all week long, is because you do so many games, the voice leathers up. And I think
3 seconds. Here we go.
This segment is brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It is Monday, and of course, that means Don Fischer is here to join us, brought to you by our good friends at Southern Stone Restaurant in Bloomington. Don, I was just talking in the break about, I'm surprised your voice was able to hold up so well with Indiana going so deep into the Big Ten tournament. And we were talking about it had, and luckily, because they got to turn it right around and play again. And if they win, they got to turn around and play again at the end of the week.
Well, I don't think the NCAA selection committee did Indiana any favors. That said, they're in the NCAA tournament, and so to quibble about the fact that they're going to be playing a play-in game, number one, number two, they're going to go with 1 day's rest over to Portland, Oregon, fly all night, and have basically very little prep time to get ready for St. Mary's if they are able to beat Wyoming. And then, of course, then they would probably likely play UCLA in the next matchup. So 3 games in 5 days in your first week in the NCAA tournament, not ideal, but nevertheless, we're in the tournament, first time in 6 years, and obviously everybody's happy about that.
Yeah, a great Big Ten tournament upset win over Michigan, then an upset win over Illinois, and nearly an upset win over Iowa, who would go on and win the tournament. And I think that the way Indiana was playing, had they been able to get past Iowa, they stood a good chance to win that Big Ten tournament with as poorly as Purdue has been playing.
Right. I think that's exactly right. But you know what? Ifs, ands, and buts, and all those kind of things were. But the whole thing boils down to this. We saw Indiana finally find a way to win 2 basketball games in this Big Ten tournament when they've been in those kind of confrontations in the past, as they did the previous week in losing to both Rutgers and Purdue late in the ball game. In this tournament, they learned how to win. And yeah, you could say, well, yeah, they had the same opportunity against Iowa, and Iowa beat them. Well, again, they got beat on basically a 35-foot shot that banked in by Jordan Bohannon, which he's done to Indiana before 3 years ago. Did exactly just about the same kind of plays in the ball game and in an overtime game against IU. Had a 3-point shot that went in to send it in overtime, and I think he had 2 more threes in that overtime period. When Bohannon's on, he is on, and certainly the last 3 stages of this game against the Hawkeyes, he was on again, and he buried Indiana with that shot. But nevertheless, I still was so happy to see this Indiana basketball team find a way to win ball games and play 3 straight days as hard as they could play. That to me was critical.
Yeah, I mean, watching them against a team like Michigan and Illinois, who number 1 seed, I thought that they were the favorite to me to win the tournament, and to watch Indiana play the way that they did for the entire length of the game, to not give up no matter what the circumstance was. That was the first that I had seen with any consistency this year, and man, they looked really good doing it. Xavier has been doing the things that Xavier's been doing, and Trace Jackson-Davis, for the times that he has kind of disappeared at times, he went nowhere. He took it to these teams in a way that I have not seen him play this season.
Well, that is true. And think about whatever happened at halftime in the Michigan game, whatever Mike Woodson said to Trace Jackson-Davis, it put a burr in his saddle and underneath his saddle, and he was a different player. The second half of that ball game, and then, of course, in each of those ball games following it against both Illinois, because look what he did against Kofi Coburn. He looked like not that he was kicking his butt, because Kofi had 23 and 10, but he was going around Kofi Coburn in spectacular fashion and had just a tremendous performance in that contest. You can take a couple of different things from these ball games, but Trace Jackson-Davis' level has improved dramatically in this tournament. Xavier Johnson has continued his progress as a terrific point guard with almost 17 points and 7 assists a ball game in the tournament. He continues to ramp up his best play of the season, and this is exactly when you need it. And Mike Woodson, whatever he's done with Xavier, how tough he's been on him throughout the year, it's all come to fruition and paid off here at the end.
Now Indiana has to play a Wyoming basketball team that very little familiarity with, because they play in a conference that there's no familiarity with. They're obviously from out west, so there's not any common opponents. I'm sure there might have been, but as a norm, so very little that you know about a Wyoming team that makes it into this tournament.
That's exactly right. This is going to be a challenge. There's no question about it. They've got a 25-8 record. They finished 13-5 in their conference. Boise State, who is their conference champion in the Mountain West, beat them 3 times this year, including once in the tournament, in their postseason tournament, to knock them out. But they are a ball club that's had a terrific year. Second-year coach Leon Rice, who's done a really nice job with this team. And they've got some guys that are going to test Indiana. Graham Ike is a 6'9", 245-pound sophomore that is averaging 19 points, almost 20 points a game, and 10 rebounds a game. This guy is a load. They've got a kid named Hunter Maldonado, a 6'7" point guard. He's a senior. He is averaging 18 points a ball game and has 202 assists on the season. So this guy is talented and really good. And they've got a nice cast around these guys. And it's a big ball club. I mean, not giant, but it's a big ball club. They've got a lot of big 6'7" guys out there, 6'8" in that ballpark, 6'5" and 6'7" at the guard spots. It's going to be interesting to see how Indiana deals with a Wyoming team they've never seen, a ball club that obviously plays quite well, maybe hasn't been as strong down the stretch as they would like. But all I can tell you is, and I don't know that much about them, I just know this: when you get into the NCAA tournament, you better have your best play is going to have to take you as far as you can go. And you can't think anybody is an easy mark, because we've seen how many upsets in the NCAA tournament there have been over the years.
Well, no, and especially because now you've got a Wyoming team who is going to get to play in Indiana. That does not happen every day for these guys. And I don't care what anybody says. It's still a thrill for these guys who are normally playing Boise State and whomever else that they're playing. They're not playing the likes of an Indiana. And so, man, those lights do shine bright. And it's a target that is on Indiana's back, because that would be a win for the ages for those kids. I mean, to be able to say that they beat Indiana in the NCAA tournament. So everybody in Indiana, no matter where they are, whether they're a top 3 or 4 seed or they're a 12 seed, they're going to get everybody else's best shot.
That is true. Absolutely. Whether you believe this or not, and I've seen it through the years, when these teams come to Indiana, the teams in non-conference play, and they've never been in the assembly hall, they are always talking about, man, this place is special. They like the hall, number one. They like the look of it, the different look of it, because it's different than any place else they've been. And, of course, they all know the tradition of Indiana, even though the Indiana tradition hasn't festered itself here lately like you would hope or like you would have expected. But the Bob Knight era was so great. And it still is what lingers in people's minds about Indiana University as a basketball power. And we've been there a few times since Bob Knight was let go, but nevertheless, it hasn't been consistent, nor nearly as much as we would like. And the fact that Indiana hadn't been in the NCAA tournament in 6 years. So that's why this is special.
Now, I hate to get ahead of ourselves, but since we won't get a chance to talk to you in case Indiana does beat Wyoming, they will go on to Portland, like you said, and play a St. Mary's team who is the only familiarity we have with them is the fact that they are the team that plays Gonzaga every year. That's how St. Mary's gets their notoriety. That seems to be the only team that gives Gonzaga any trouble up in their conference.
Well, and that familiarity is why. And St. Mary's is well coached. They've got a good team. They're not in Gonzaga's category, but they are a very good basketball team, and they cannot be taken lightly either. I don't know a thing about them this year. I've not seen them play. I haven't read anything about them. I've been prepping since last night's draw just to get ready for Wyoming, working on that. It took me about midnight before I was able to get back to bed, and I still haven't seen anything on St. Mary's. I do know that Indiana, if they beat Wyoming, they will play St. Mary's on Thursday, and then if they win again, they will play on Saturday, likely against UCLA, who plays Akron. Akron's a good ball club, but I don't think they're in that category with a UCLA. They're a number 4 ranked team in the country. So you have 3 games in 5 days in the NCAA tournament. That's going to be a challenge.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that for you as well. I mean, have you ever done this many games in this short of a time? I'm thinking it's like 6 games in 10 days.
Yeah, well, we're going to test the vocal cords, that's for sure. But I was like I told you before we went on the air, I felt pretty good about the fact that all 3 of those ball games were exciting, and you had to use the voice and project and all those kinds of things, and it held up pretty well. But we'll at least have a day's rest in between each one now, so that might seem like it's a vacation.
Well, I meant as far as the preparation, man, because I know how much prep you have to put in for every game, learning, especially now. It's even harder because, at least with the Big Ten season, we played them before. We've got to update some stats, and is this player hurt or whatever. But now it's all new, new players, all new stats. Everything is new, and every game it's brand new.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of reading involved. Obviously, you're trying to bone up on the opponent just to see exactly what they do, how they go about their business. You've got to set up I try to set up interviews with the opposing coach or whoever they allow me to talk to, because a lot of times when you've got the short turnaround, these coaches are so busy they don't want to do a lot of extra radio stuff. So more than likely, we'll probably get the color commentator or somebody like that for that interview. But there's a lot involved, and the preparation involving every ball game that you do it always requires a great deal of reading and that kind of thing. And then, of course, taking notes and getting your see. I keep my own score. I keep my own little stat sheet during a ball game and stuff, which it's right there. You can see it. Kind of get a close up if you want to.
Yeah,
you can see it. But I mean, I put this thing together, and I've been doing this for years. Here's the thing you got to know, Jim. I'm an old man. I've never changed how I've gone about doing broadcasting since I had my first job in this business. And a guy told me, he gave me 5 hours of his time, showed me how he prepared for ball games and that kind of thing. I took what he did and maybe enhanced it just a little bit. But I've been doing it the same way for the last 4 years now that I've been in this business. And honestly, I can't do it any differently because I'm stayed. I can't go any differently. So it takes a lot of time, but nevertheless, I'll be prepared for the next 2 ball games, at least who I think is going to play, but I've got to do this little stat sheet to get ready for the other teams out in Akron, as well as UCLA, St. Mary's, and obviously Wyoming. So got a lot of work.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's what they say.
Yeah, absolutely.
St. Mary's lost to Wisconsin by 6. Bill told us, and let's see. Forrest said he's seen St. Mary's several times. Very well coached, good 3-point shooting, not very physical. And St. Mary's also beat Notre Dame, so there's something to keep in mind.
Yeah, well, that's saying something because they, like I said, they're a really good basketball program. They've been coached really well throughout the years. It's going to be a challenge, and obviously, we hope we get there. That's the main thing. Get there.
And Notre Dame actually is the reason that Indiana's having to go through all this stuff, I think, actually, because they played in the regular season. Those two were the 2 last teams in, which I'm still having a hard time believing that. But they were the last 2 in because they played. They wouldn't let them play. And then that left Rutgers. So that left Indiana playing Wyoming. And so it's kind of how this whole screwed up thing got started. But that's where we are. But I'll let you go so you can begin your traveling.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. No question about it. But you know what? Again, Indiana's in the NCAA tournament. That's what the fan base has been screaming for the last 6 years now. And it came to fruition. And now if Indiana can do something with it, it's going to be a lot more fun than we had anticipated, especially a few weeks ago.
Well, the fans certainly seem to be loving it, man. They are absolutely here for it, and as are we, and here for you. And make sure you catch Don's broadcast. Do you guys have any pregame specials or anything like that other than the normal broadcast?
No, we just do the normal broadcast. Coaches will not do talk shows now, or they're too busy with what they've got to do in preparation and that kind of thing. Our last talk show was prior to the Big Ten tournament, so yeah, we got no specials or anything like that. I don't know what you would do on a special because you can't get coaches or players because they're involved in their preparation. That's really hard to do. Obviously, you could put together something, I suppose, with play-by-play and things like that to go over the season, that type of thing. But nobody thought of it.
I love that. Well, Don, it has been a while. It has been a while. So, man, I can't thank you enough. I look forward to seeing you over in Dayton.
All right. Sounds good, Jeff. See you.
The great Don Fischer, voice of the Hoosiers here on Indiana Sports Beat, getting prepped for Indiana taking on Wyoming in Dayton. We're back with more. Dustin Dopirak is with us here right after this.
We'll be right back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
An Evansville tradition.
Holy moly. What a freaking weekend, Dustin.
Yeah. Jeez.
Gosh, did they screw
What
Indiana,
a week
though.
this is going to be. My God, man.
I know. They screwed Indiana over so hard.
They really did. They screwed us over so hard, Jim.
Yeah, that's who they screwed because nobody's pumping out any money.
Like, they really, I mean, they at least get a prize. Like, everyone's like, I've been sort of openly complaining on Twitter as much as I ever have about anything.
I'm talking financially, it's crazy.
Oh, it's brutal. Brutal.
It is the absolute worst place they could have sent him.
Yeah, I mean, like what? I mean, I was looking at this and figuring like, okay, like what else could they have done? Like, and I'm sure this messes with the S curve, but I mean, so what? Like, they could have sent the winner of IU Wyoming to Buffalo to play Connecticut, and they could have sent Notre Dame Rutgers to Indy and in Michigan spot. Like, why not? Yeah, ship Michigan.
Or they could have
how
sent him
does-
to play Houston.
What's that?
Kelvin Sampson. Or they could have sent him to play Houston. They're 5 seed.
I don't think they could have. Why did I not think that? There's a reason.
Because there's another Big Ten team in the area of that bracket or something.
Yeah, because you can't set up.
Okay, that makes sense.
I guess you could have shifted that team around, but you can't.
Well, I heard Jerry Palm say that the NCAA or the SID for the NCAA said that this last 4N was the hardest scheduling that they've ever had to do because of the fact that it was actually Indiana and Notre Dame originally playing and Wyoming and Rutgers playing, but because Notre Dame and Indiana already played and Indiana and Rutgers already played, they made it Indiana and Wyoming instead. And that it had to do with, and then still the seeding that I still don't understand after that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't either, but like all the same, I mean, like where are we at here? You might have just gotten approval. Are you going?
Oh, is that what that noise was?
Yeah. That was the one on mine. Did you get it?
Yeah. It's
Actually, no.
has been approved. Yes.
I
have been
Certified
approved.
Dream Deal Sales Event. Get 0.99% APR financing for well-qualified buyers on all 2017 through 2021 Honda certified pre-owned Accords, Civics, CRVs, HRVs, and Pilots. See dealer for financing deals. Andy Moore Honda, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer. Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Monday, brought to you by the great folks at Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer, Dustin Dopirak with the Bloomington Herald Times. And just got off with Don Fischer, Dustin, and as it was for him, for you as well, a busy last few days, man. Exciting, but fun.
Oh, yeah, no, it was wild. I mean, did not expect to spend as much time in, well, I mean, obviously I live in Indianapolis, but did not expect to spend as much time at Gamebridge as we did. Ultimately, just a fascinating tournament in Indiana, which is, really, I think the most interesting team in Indianapolis. I mean, the way they obviously stepped up, coming back from down 17 against Michigan, then just a whale of a back and forth basketball game against Illinois and then another one against Iowa. Really thrilling basketball. And this team, I think, is a lot more exciting, a lot more interesting than it was a couple weeks ago. I mean, there's still obvious evident flaws with this group. Certainly the 3-point shooting still isn't what Indiana wants it to be, but I mean, they're defending really well. Galloway and Finney being back make this a different team. Xavier Johnson is playing just spectacular basketball, but also Trace Jackson Davis is playing like an All-American. Even though he's probably not going to be one this year as he was a year ago, he was just tremendous in Indy. And so just fascinating weekend, obviously fascinating stuff going on yesterday, but definitely Indiana for sure made it interesting at Big Tens.
I told Don, man, if Indiana can get past Iowa, I think that they win the daggone Big Ten tournament. Purdue's just not playing that well. Indiana was on a roll, and I think that the way that they were on a roll is in a manner that Purdue would not have been. Iowa was tougher because they have so many 3-point weapons, and Indiana just couldn't slow them down enough Purdue doesn't have quite that. And I'm thinking they could have actually won that stinking tournament. And I didn't give it, I'll be honest with you, I gave them no chance to beat Michigan at the start of this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, I gave them a chance. I thought they could. I mean, they needed to. I mean, just out of the sense of desperation, I think they had a shot. Just because of that, and there's some ways in which they match up okay, but there's a lot of ways in which they don't. Obviously, and you remember the previous game in Assembly Hall, they got their doors blown off. I mean, that was probably their worst. Just their worst performance of the season. But they managed to just defensively lock up. I mean, it is wild to consider. I mean, how well Michigan was shooting early, and the fact they missed 14 straight. And Indiana turns that game around. I mean, I think it was 31-9 down the stretch. I mean, I guess it was 24-9. I can't remember. Just all of the runs in that package there in the last 11 minutes. The extent to which they really stepped up. But they seem buried. I mean, they're down 17, and I'm just presuming, okay, well, NIT then, not going anywhere. And the next 11 minutes of that game, it's just different. They found a gear, they locked in. Johnson and Finney get rolling. It was something else.
Yeah, we were talking about Wyoming and the upcoming next. Let's see. Daryl says that they're a 3.5 or 4-point favorite. That surprises me. And I know nothing about Wyoming. I know zilch about Wyoming, but just quickly looking and the way Indiana's playing. But you get to this, it doesn't matter. The non-familiarity is sometimes a problem. Sometimes it's great because you're not playing a team you've already played, like if they'd had to have played Rutgers or Notre Dame. Sometimes it works to your advantage, I guess, especially for them on what they can. There's only so much they can scout for Indiana.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, obviously they can watch a lot of film, but like when you're used to league play, I mean, and especially, and I don't know if this is more true in the Big Ten than every place else. I mean, because obviously the game tends to slow down traditionally in the Big Ten, and part of the reason is because the coaches tend to scout so well. The tendencies are so well known over years and years and years, and sometimes the tendencies sort of continue through coaching staffs. Wisconsin obviously has been playing the same way. Or something similar, not just going back through the Bo Ryan era, but probably go back to Dick Bennett. I mean, it's not the exact same plays or anything like that, but I mean, they have sort of their grinded out style is continued through three coaches, and these teams just know what the other one's going to do, and that leads to this sort of like clutch and grab kind of games where it's like, okay, all of a sudden you get to play somebody else you haven't played that doesn't know you, and it's wide open, and it's just they're figuring out who your players are in the span of 2 or 3 days, and you have some idea who can shoot and who can't and whatever, but you've got so much more data and so much more awareness, and you probably recruited the kid and that kind of stuff, or where there's like crossover there, like trying to think of guys this fits for, but I mean, there's players that Purdue and Michigan State and Michigan and Indiana all recruited, and they go one place, and you figure out how to defend them because you knew what you wanted them to do in your system, and so flip that around, and there's probably going to be guys that like the guys in Wyoming, Indiana probably never considered recruiting, and vice versa, and they've never seen, and it's a totally it's not a totally different style of basketball, but obviously they're going to have a sense. Indiana, Wyoming's obviously going to know it's got to defend Trace Jackson Davis. It's going to have some sense of Xavier Johnson. But there's going to be a lot of things they don't know. It's going to be a more wide open floor, you have to presume. Again, just less grinded out. And so, it is a different game. That's why I think the tournament always ends up being so refreshing, because it's always a more open kind of scrambled game, because you don't have all this time to get ready. Sometimes you just play.
And as I look through this as well, if Indiana gets past Wyoming, speaking of which, I would think that there's probably going to be a large contingent of Indiana fans in Dayton, much more than there are going to be from Wyoming. That is for damn sure. Yeah. But that got me to thinking, if they win that game and go to Portland, they're playing St. Mary's. Where is St. Mary's from out there?
California. I think it's Southern California.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, that's not as bad then. but West Coast. But then they play UCLA if they're able to get past that. So
presumably, unless Akron pulls one off.
So
always
that's
the possibility.
But so put them in the West and put them against every Western team they could put them up against too as well. So yeah, I hate complaining about it, but man, it just seems like with the committee or the NCAA located in Indianapolis, they almost go out of their way to not show any favoritism or perceived favoritism towards Indiana.
Right. I mean, well, not only that though. I mean, they're like, forget just Indiana. Like, it's like somebody buy them a globe. Honestly, this is absurd. I mean, it really is. I mean, like, just I don't care who's playing, whether it's Indiana, whether it's somebody else, like just wherever that team is from. Like, you don't send people to Dayton and then send them to Portland or San Diego. I mean, that's where the winner of Rutgers and Notre Dame is going. The winner of that game has to go to San Diego. Like, that's absurd. You know, they've got to get on a plane that night. You're going to be the late game because, you know, you always make the at-large game, the at-large games in this first four, you know, the late games, the primetime games to get better draws. You know, you put the 16s on early because nobody knows. So you put on a Rutgers, Notre Dame, and Indiana, Wyoming, who have more brand names, and you make them play the late game. And then you got to put them on a plane so that they're ready to go practice on Wednesday and play a game on Thursday in the West Coast. I mean, you know, flip side for Notre Dame, they'll play Wednesday night. You know, Rutgers or Notre Dame, whoever wins that game will play Wednesday night, then get on a plane out to play on Friday. And again, in between, have an open practice. While you're also, so you're having open practice, but you're also going to, you know, find some place to have a closed practice, and you're going to have media responsibilities on some level. So, you know, that's what's up with those guys. And then we, the media, have to make these trips, and we're probably not going to even be there for Wednesday media availability in Portland. I don't know how on earth we'd fly that far out,
which they don't care about. And it costs, they don't, it's dumb.
Yeah.
They don't, it's like they don't think 2 steps ahead of themselves at all.
Yeah. I mean, like,
I
I understand it probably messes with the S curve in some way, but when you're getting down to the 11s and 12s on the S curve, I mean, I feel like you can make an adjustment. You know, there's availability. There's a couple spots you couldn't put people because, you know, obviously you've got 2 Big Ten teams in this first 4, so you couldn't send them out to Milwaukee for the 11s out there because you've got Purdue and Wisconsin as the 3s up there. So you can't send them there. And I think Pittsburgh, you couldn't send them either. There's a 12 available in the Pittsburgh you know, sub-region, but Illinois is there, so you can't send them there either. But, you know, you could have sent an 11 to Indy, where Michigan is. You could have sent Michigan out west, but send the winner of that Rutgers Notre Dame game to Indianapolis, and then you could have sent the winner of the 12 out to Buffalo to play UConn, and that's manageable. That's doable. That's not crazy. And so, like, you know, again, I get it. You know, these kids they'll be on private jets and they're 20 years old, 19 years old, whatever. I mean, they can physically recover. But, you know, I mean, you're taking them out of class for even longer. And, you know, and that still makes a difference on your body. And if you've got an injury, I mean, like, I don't know how Jordan Geronimo is going to feel, you know, basically if he tries to play tomorrow, and then has to get on a cross-country plane to Portland with with an injured knee. How's that going to go? So I don't know. I mean, yeah, I don't think this was thought out, and this is a big country. You have to spend many, many hours on a plane and many hours in airports if you're flying commercial to get out to this. And again, like, I mean, I understand we're not priority. They don't care about us, but it's a pain. It just is. And it's logistically absurd to send people, send teams, send staffs, send media, send, and put, any highfalutin fans who can make this trip in a position where you're going from Dayton to Portland in the span of a day.
Yeah. I mean, you think about it. I mean, parents,
right.
That's just so much to throw together. And I think that, I don't know, the play-in game is great, but maybe they have to think of a different way of doing it.
I think, you either have, you got to go one or two ways. Either A, you move it out of Dayton and you have those teams play wherever they're going to be,
yeah.
Then send them to Portland today. And I mean, that's a pain in itself, and that's crazy. But if you're, it's either you're married to the S curve or you're married to Dayton. You can't be married to both. you have to come up with one of those two. If you love the idea of the first four in Dayton so much, I get it. That's great. It's a fun place to watch a game. Obviously, Indiana was there for the first and second rounds back in 2013. Thoroughly enjoyed the venue and the whole bit. And so it's a really cool court for college basketball. It's really cool for this event in particular. So if you want them out there, that's cool, but then you got to keep them at least in the Eastern or Central time zones. You can't ship people out to, the West Coast after Dayton. But if you're more married to the S curve, if it's more important to make sure these guys are playing exactly who it is that they're supposed to play in your, machinations with the S curve where everybody fits, then you send them there early. If you're not going to care at all about where that is, then you got to send them there early. I mean, it's just, you can't have both things.
And it's kind of ironic that Indiana has to start this tour back into the NCAA tournament at the home of their previous coach, Archie Miller. I've thought of the irony about that.
There is irony. First off, it's just interesting to me that they're playing in the two sites that they played in 2012 and 2013. They did first and second round of Portland in 2012 and first and second round of Dayton in 2013. So I've got a kick out of that. But yeah, no, it is funny. They're going back to Archie's spot. I don't know. I wonder if he sees the irony in that, but he probably just does not care one single bit because he's Archie. But that is intriguing as well.
Absolutely. And this is a totally different story. And Harris Jaffe, lacrosse. Have you seen this story? The Clemson player, Clemson lacrosse player who was collapsed, revived partly by, it keeps saying an Indiana player. And I'm like, Indiana doesn't have lacrosse. So I haven't been able to thrash the story out.
So it might be it's probably a club situation. I'm just seeing Indiana lacrosse has a tweet up about it. There's an Indiana lacrosse site, so I'm presuming that's a club situation because it's obviously not varsity. Well,
he performed CPR on this Clemson player because he has
Harris Jaffe was the guy who did it, and John Holcomb was the Clemson player.
Right. The Indiana player had EMT training and was able to start that before, I guess, along with trainers. But they keep saying that already. This is going to be an amazing story. That's pretty amazing. One of the players in the game is part of saving another player's life. That's crazy.
Yeah, no, that's totally amazing. That's incredible. I cannot even imagine the drama in that situation. But who knows how the kid knew CPR or whatever? Maybe he just took a class, but just a remarkable thing for somebody to do.
Yeah. All right. But getting back to NCAA tournament, you've also got Purdue, who they're heading into this thing. They're kind of dragging a little bit. Illinois, they're okay, probably. Losing to Indiana, but they didn't like it. But Indiana was on a roll.
Right.
Iowa just, it's easy to say they're the hottest team, but man, they are on a roll. But is that a team that you see can go far?
Yeah, I think Iowa's, the issue with Iowa is what it always is. They still can't really guard, and they're probably a better defensive team than they've been in recent years. Where are they at? 77th in Ken Palm efficiency, so that's probably better than they've been. Let me see here. Like a year ago, they were 75. Year before that, they were 97. So that's an issue, is that you can score on them. I think obviously when you're talking about like five men, I like Chris Murray's game a lot when they put him in, but he's obviously a smaller guy, 4 or 5, because basically he and Keegan are literally the same size, and that is a 4, basically as a stretch 4. But Trace Jackson Davis was able just to have his way with Philip Ravaka, and they brought some double teams, obviously, and caused him some issues later, but he still had 31. So you can get beat. They can get beat by those type of guys. Their guards defensively are just okay. But Keegan Murray is great. I mean, just that kid
Should
was,
Keegan Murray? I vote. I'm gonna be honest with you. In whatever thing that I voted on the U.S. Basketball Writers Association, I voted for for Johnny Davis as Player of the Year. I regret my vote now. I shouldn't say regret it. I really, really question if Keegan Murray was not the best player in the Big Ten this year.
yeah. I mean, there were great players in the Big Ten this year. I mean, there's a chance, like, I mean, the same way as last year. I mean, you know, they'll have more All-Americans than just about anybody. And so I think you could make a case for both. I mean, I think some of it's recency bias because Iowa's coming off of, you know, winning the Big Ten tournament, and Wisconsin got Wisconsin obviously got a piece of it in the regular season. So, I mean, I think that ends up that always ends up coloring how you vote for those. I mean, I know it does with me. You know, I don't think I had any votes this year. But bottom line, you know, like they are, what am I trying to say here exactly? Like, you look at Wisconsin as a champion where you didn't look at Iowa as a champion. And now you look at Iowa as a champion, all of a sudden it makes more sense to have Keegan Murray, where it's sort of like splits the difference. If you have two guys that are really, really good, you pick the guy who won his team a championship. And so basically when all those were due, Wisconsin was the champion. Now Wisconsin has had a share in the regular season, and Iowa's Big Ten tournament champion. So it gives more legitimacy to Murray's case. I mean, both of those guys are really good, man. I mean, like you saw just what Davis was able to do down the stretch against Indiana, you know, when they were, I guess, down at Assembly Hall. I mean, he was just unbelievable. And you know, you consider also, like, Murray came into this year, you know, nobody really heard of him last year, and he got himself on the map toward the end of the year. And I mean, he was even being talked about as a first round pick, you know, going into the season, even though he didn't have like huge numbers last year. You know, Johnny Davis, I mean, do we even know who Johnny Davis was? You know, and Wisconsin was picked what, 9th, 10th, something like that.
Yes,
and they had some, you know, departures and everything like that. And you were looking at Wisconsin as a team like, this will finally be the year that Wisconsin doesn't get a share of it, and Wisconsin finds a way to get a share of it. And as much as like everybody finds them annoying, as just Wisconsin, just the way they play, the style, the occasional, you know, I don't know, extracurriculars, if you will, you know, Davis carried them to a, you know, share of a Big Ten title. So I don't think you can regret picking Davis, but Murray made a case. Murray absolutely made a case. And, you know, I mean, like, and you tack on the fact, I mean, Jaden Ivey is still friggin' phenomenal. And he probably wasn't really up for Big Ten Player of the Year just because there were so many other offensive weapons on Purdue. And he didn't have to take over the same way that Murray and Davis did for their teams. But, you know, I mean, I still think, you know, he's still the best NBA prospect out of the group. And those, probably all three of those guys will be lottery picks. I mean, wow. Wow.
Roger says playing physically may hurt IU because of the refs calling the game more closely. That's something I thought about the Big Ten tournament this weekend. They let them play. I mean, I know Indiana fans like to complain a lot of calls, but let me tell you, there's a lot of stuff that does not get called. I mean, they play physically, right. And if you're not game, you really can't see a lot of everything that's going on. Trust me, they are physical. And yeah, I wonder about that because we've seen that in the past, whether with other Big Ten teams, where they get into trouble in the NCAA because it's called a little closer, a lot more closer, and these teams are used to banging on each other.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, like because there's so much happening in the Big Ten games, some stuff gets let go, and so, you know, like, and it ends up being tough to call it consistently when it's like, well, you just let this go, why did you let that go? And so it's like, okay, well, that was clear, this, that, you know, so and you end up calling less just because you could call it all the time and just turn it into, you know, nothing but a foul frenzy sometimes. And so, you know, again, when they do go play, you know, and they do call it a little bit tighter in NCAA games, it can absolutely be an issue. And this team gets shook up when it comes to foul trouble. Mike Woodson is pretty much a firm believer in the idea that you take a guy out if he's got 2 fouls in the first half. You know, he's been sort of hard and fast on that, even when it's been a little bit questionable, especially the way Xavier Johnson has been playing lately. I mean, they've still pulled him for two. They've still pulled him, for 2 fouls, even when he's playing really well and was clearly sort of the guy stirring the drink. He's been willing to pull him. So if guys like Johnson or Jackson Davis or Race Thompson or somebody like that get 2 fouls early, it shakes it up pretty good.
And then let's see what else they're going to say. Yeah, all right. Indiana was one of the last 2 teams in. They could have been the last team in for all. I'm going to assume that they were the second to last team in since they beat Notre Dame head to head. And Notre Dame's the other. How in the world does a team that is 36 in the Ken Palm, 38 in the net rankings, that plays in a conference that has the most teams in the tournament, how in the world are they a freaking play-in team? I just don't get that. Nothing says that they're a play-in team other than some games they lost early that they just really shouldn't have. But man, I don't know that you punish the team that badly for that.
Well, there's a couple. I mean, it's one of those things. Once you get down to this stretch, once you get down to those last teams, and it really the last 8, all of them are flawed. They're going to be flawed. And if one thing catches your eye as a problem, you can make it a bigger problem. Like in your mind or in the mind of a committee, you can beat some teams up on some other things and raise some teams up on others, and say, basically, I was sitting and talking to I think Brian Tinsani, who's the guy who has Delphi bracketology, just has that class up at Delphi High School where they do this. And we were talking about it after they beat Michigan, before they beat Illinois. And, this was when we were still talking about like whether they were going to get in at all or not. And it was like, basically like you can make a case if you want to get Indiana in, if you want to make an argument that Indiana deserves to be in, you can make it. And if you want to make an argument that Indiana does not deserve to be in, then you can make it. And obviously they beat Illinois and that improves their case. But, got put in the last 4. And so what are the arguments against? First off, 3-8 road record, which includes losses to Northwestern and Penn State. And, the suspensions thing, I mean, like, it's not like the fact that they, darn near gave away the Northwestern game by just deciding to go out, whatever happened Monday night that led to what apparently was a curfew violation. They don't look at that and say, well, they would have beat them by 20 if they had all their guys. They look at them and say, well, you guys screwed up. Like you guys decided it was more important to do whatever it was that you did, that you play that game. You get hurt by that. You get hurt by just not being able to beat a Penn State at their place. And again, 3-8 road record with the only 3 wins being Nebraska, Maryland, and Minnesota. Those are not great teams. Those were teams that were bottom 4, bottom 5, I guess, in the league. So you don't have an even decent looking true road win. You have the neutral win against Notre Dame is nice, but that's the best that you got. You lost to Syracuse on the road. That's not a tournament team. Again, obviously that's a tough place to play. Tough game, was wild, crazy, fun basketball game to watch, but Syracuse was not in the discussion, and you lost to them on the road. And so then non-conference strength of schedule. I mean, again, we've talked about it before, talked about it since Mike Woodson was very clear and upfront about why he didn't do any harder this year. Said, hey, this is my first year. It's a new team. I don't know these guys. I have no idea how much I can test them, so I won't. I just won't test them. I'm going to, spend November and December figuring them out. I figure we got enough of these contracted games with the Gavitt games and the ACC Big Ten Challenge and Crossroads. We'll get enough. And his, schedule is ranked 308th in the NET, non-conference strength of schedule. And the NCAA the committee seems to make a point of punishing that. Both really the playoff committee does too in football and in basketball. It's like, hey, you're like, you should play people. You have control over your non-conference schedule. You get to decide who you play, and you should challenge yourself if you expect to be a tournament team. Woodson obviously made the calculation. Hey, if we take our time getting it together, then we'll get enough in the Big Ten. That won't be a problem. Comes back to bite him again. I understood the logic from the beginning. I get where he was coming from, but the NCAA seems to hit you over the head with that. And 308th, I mean, that's bottom of the barrel. Obviously, they had a great league, but they were still 9-11 in it, and they don't help themselves with non-conference play. So, but you were really riding on the Big Ten. I mean, that's you really look at their argument. It is the Big Ten's great, and we did okay.
How in the world could they have the 308th
strength of schedule. With
You were there.
thing
You were there in November, December. You know how.
but I was like, man, I'm thinking the other 20 games kind of make up for that, but I guess not. It's like, wow.
Oh, man, there were some rough ones. Let's remember. I mean, sheesh.
I mean, it's back. Yeah, it's back like Archie Miller, the beginning of the Archie Miller era when they were playing those 300 ranked. Hell, they were playing teams ranked 300.
Oh yeah, I mean, in Indiana did. I mean, I don't know. But shoot, I can go look at what these guys were on Ken Palm that they played. But I mean, it was. They played got some bottom teams. Eastern Michigan is 314, and they got the Eastern Michigan game. Merrimack was 300. Northern Illinois was 294. Jackson State 277. Marshall was interesting, 238. These are Ken Palm rankings, and so it's not NETs, but they played some sub 200, sub 300 teams, and add all that up, and again, you can always.
This is a team like no other. I can say that. Nebraska gave them hell when Nebraska was not Nebraska yet. This was at the beginning of the Big Ten season in Bloomington. Sure. Yeah, that was a tough game. This team took longer to gel and then gelled. I don't know that I've ever seen a team that took that long, but was able to get it together at the end. And they've been able to pull it together by the chin of their
hairs with no chin.
Barely. Yeah. Just barely in time, man. Just barely in time. But they have, and they're playing well right now. And it's great to see, and it's fun to see for the fans. It's fun to see for them. But it's more fun for us because we get to hopefully have more Mike Woodson press conferences. And I am actively calling for him to change the way he says our favorite post-game presser word.
Cuss word. Yeah, we're not going to say it.
The style of that in The Wire.
We're just going to say Clay Davis. If you guys know The Wire, and you should.
Absolutely, you should.
You know what we mean. Mm-hmm.
Hey, do you know he has a bobblehead doll?
Oh yeah, of course he does.
I swear, when I was looking it up for something, I found one, and he's got a bobblehead doll, and you hit it, and that's what it says. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh, that will be here.
Yeah,
that will be on order soon. Right. Dustin, can't thank you enough, brother. I'm sure you're on your way here soon. I am. When we get done, I will be doing the same, heading to Dayton. Indiana has an open practice, I believe, tonight, open to the public at like 6:45, I think.
Yep. So Osterman's coming to get me at about 11:30, 12, and we'll be on the road.
All right. Well, have a safe trip, guys, and we'll see you over there.
Will do. All right. See ya.
Thank you very much. Dustin Dopirak from the Bloomington Herald-Times joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat before he heads out to Dayton in the NCAA tournament game for Indiana and Wyoming tomorrow night. We've got lots more coming up to talk about, and we're going to hear from Mike Woodson. We're going to hear from Rob Fennessy as well, what their thoughts are on those very things. Coming up more here on Indiana Sports Beat, brought to you by our great friends at the WOW Network. Make sure you get the WOW card. You can go to your app store in either Apple or Galaxy, Samsung, whatever, and get it. My WOW Club. That will give you the ability to get money off of your trips to Southern Stone, Cabello, the Allery, Feast Market and Celery, the Courtroom House in Bedford, BB's Marketplace, and Bakers and Butchers here in Bloomington, the former Wagon Wheel as well, and the Fresh Fork, lots of others, and more coming. Hey, speaking of more coming, we've got plenty more coming here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Andy Moore Honda. Can we play that?
Play what?
Clay Davis.
I'm not sure.
That's not a cuss word. Shit. How's that a cuss word?
Yeah, honestly, I don't know. You have to ask the FCC.
Shit's not a cuss word on radio. It's not one of the 7 deadly words anyway. No, it's not.
I know you can't say it on radio.
That's not true.
Jeff Goodman did it on Nick Coffey show when I was producing it about a year ago, and was like, "Oh, excuse my language." And I know he
Well,
knows better.
that's just saying a bad word. That's not a word that you can't say, though. That's not a findable word.
I was
There are
told to
7.
dump it. I was told to dump it when I did it. I
Well,
don't know. Like
that
said,
I get that.
It's too much of
and
a gray area.
as I normally dump it as well. That's not but I'm just telling you, it's not a.
I need to get a sheet of paper, or not paper, but a sheet that can just look at my computer and all the things that can't be said on radio. I've got 2 quotes from Woodson, 2 from Finney. You're only going to have about 5 minutes here if you want to do a few of them.
Well, I will tell you what. You are absolutely correct. That is one of them.
There you go.
But it makes no sense because the next one is even dumber.
We'll spell it. What is it?
P-I.
P-I-S-S?
Yeah.
That does surprise me. That is pretty dumb.
I can't believe that. That's what's next?
You have a few minutes before Reamer, and then you're taking our break.
Okay.
You could run any of these clips if you want. I've got 2 from Woody, 2 from Rob Finney. They all kind of talk about the same thing, the NCAA tournament, just with different little side comments here and there.
Holy crap. All right, I'm leaving for the game tonight, which means I'll be doing it from Dayton tomorrow morning.
I'm going to try to see if Charlie wants to join tomorrow
Post
night.
game?
Because it's a late post, and that usually works for him.
Fudge, it is a late game, man. They play at
9:10.
Fuck.
I cannot believe they're
crap.
doing that and heading off to Portland if they win the next.
Hey,
week.
did I tell you I got my bag back?
No, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Where was it?
It's
Quickly, 20
it
seconds.
It showed up.
Really?
Yeah.
Someone must have heard you were mad. All right, here we go.
Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com.
This segment is brought to you by Aurora Specialty Sleep Clinic. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. Monday, tournament week. Basketball being played all over the place. Indiana men's team in the NCAA tournament. Indiana women's team in the NCAA tournament. Where I'm trying to pull up the bracket for the women. They're a number 3 seed?
They're a 3, and they'll be playing 14th seeded Charlotte in Bloomington to start off their round.
Saw that.
And if they win, they play the winner of Kentucky and Princeton, I believe.
That's what I saw. They have I wrote that down somewhere. But anyway, IU women have a potential date with Kentucky in the second round. Now, post that, they have a potential date if they can get by them. Potential date with UConn. The queen of women's collegiate basketball for years after Tennessee. Where is Indiana playing? Where are these? Where's this bracket, man? I hate they don't have the names. There we go. Right.
And then if they win, they'll travel
games
to Bridgeport.
That's what I'm. Oh my God. That is where they will have to meet up with UConn in a potential game in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Oh, that would be great. Can't get this thing to expand out, man. I can't get it to expand out. That stinks. I can't read. It's too small. So, who is it they play first? I can't read it.
They play Charlotte first.
That's right. I saw that 5 times, and you would think I remember that because my family lives in Charlotte. And if they win that game, is Kentucky the winner of the Kentucky game?
Yep, Kentucky, Princeton.
Oh, wow. And now, is there a game between if they were to win those two and play in UConn? Or would they play UConn next?
I haven't looked that far ahead for them.
I just can't get this stupid bracket to open wider to be able to read it. Here, well, stupid stuff. But congratulations to the Indiana women. What were they seeded last year? Like a 7 seed or something? This is does this tie the highest seed that they've ever had?
Here's what we got. I found what you're looking for. Yeah. So if they beat Charlotte and then the winner of Kentucky and Princeton, then they will play the winner of between these 4: UConn, Mercer, Florida, and UCF. UConn as the 2 seed, Indiana the 3 seed.
So UConn plays the other team. Well, so then they would play UConn next, right?
Yeah. If UConn advances, then they would play UConn, and NC State is the 1 seed in that bracket. So that's who they have at the top of their region.
Wow. So there's a NC, and this is playing in Bridgeport, Connecticut, and UConn's the number 2 seed.
Yeah, that's odd. Unless there's 2 separate. No, here's how it works. NC State, aka Raleigh, North Carolina, they'll host up until they get to.
Well, you get 2 games at home, I think. Is that all you can get at home, or they play the next round at home?
Maybe I'm wrong, but it's listed as the Bridgeport region, so that seems a little unfair that UConn is a 2 seed and NC State would have to essentially play a road game in Bridgeport if it's NC State versus UConn. So who knows?
Why 3 phones? I love it.
All right, we can take.
You don't get any favors when your out of conference schedule is ranked over. That's right. That's right. There's no doubt about that. You got to play teams. You say we got to take a break?
Yep.
All right, Jim Reamer's up next. We've got to hear from. We still have not heard from Woody and Rob Fennessy. We'll do that when we come back. Indiana Sports Beat brought to you by our good friends at the WOW Network. Whether it's Southern Stone Restaurant or Cabello, we got new restaurants coming. It's going to be a fun time in Bloomington. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting Bloomington, man.
Good morning, Mr. Reamer.
Hey, what's up? Almost forgot about the IHSA. There's so much going on. It's almost not even fair to the IHSA.
Well, they don't rely on.
I know that
normal methods of ratings or anything like that.
I know that, but hell, I wanted to go to Seymour. Planned on going to Seymour Saturday, but couldn't because of how screwed up they had Indiana's game scheduled.
Oh. I was in a good
Did
situation.
Floyd Central advance, Jim?
They did not. They got beat.
No.
They got beat Saturday morning by Franklin. That was the surprise of the day.
I heard that Franklin got beat by Floyd.
No, Franklin beat Floyd Central and then lost to Bloomington North.
That is
so GQ Roberts. They're still going.
Yeah, I was surprised.
That's got to be one of the biggest upsets in years.
Well, but this underscores what I say often is one of the variables of winning any game is they had the best player on the floor. That's Micah Davis. I have no clue what kind of game he had, but I can guarantee you Sturgeon put a lot of resources toward him. And then if you're taking up that many resources, you're going to free up guys who can probably hit open shots. And Franklin's got some younger kids who can shoot.
Damn, and they barely lost to Bloomington North. Wow. God damn.
So what round is this right now? Are they in?
We're in the
semi-state, basically Final Four, though. It's basically the Final Four, though, in the old days.
Yeah, of each class.
See down here.
Well, this would be the old days. This would be the Sweet 16 because you'd have 4.
So that's how it is down in Kentucky. It's the Sweet. They have the whole state tournament. It's the final 16 teams in Republic.
And it still is technically a Sweet 16. It's just broken up into 4 classes. You've got 8. You got 4 teams in each class left. You've got 2. You've got a north semifinal, a south semifinal, and then the winners they play one.
No,
game.
there's only this is the Elite 8.
No, there's 16 teams left
in each class.
No, 4 in each class. It's still effectively the same number of teams. They're just taking 8 teams to the finals instead of 4. But it's class, so it's broken into 4 groups.
All right, here we go.
Kyle Brinker from Brinker's Jewelers. They wouldn't be surprised with the one-of-a-kind proposal and the little green box from Brinker's Jewelers, where every one of our diamonds are hand-selected by an owner of the company. That means every single diamond has to meet a Brinker standard on beauty and value. So if you're planning on getting engaged, your engagement ring needs to come in that little green box from Brinker's Jewelers, voted the best jewelry store 9 years in a row by Evansville Living Magazine and the Readers, located at the corner of Green River Road and the Lloyd Expressway, or online at brinkersjewelers.com.
This segment is brought to you by Courtroom Sports Grill in Bedford. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you on this Monday, brought to you by our good friends at the Courtroom down in Bedford. Stop by and give them a chop in for a game. Great place. Man, the IHSA almost overlooked by some of us who were busy all weekend. I would remember and then forget, and I'm like, gosh, dang it. Gigantic upset in Seymour, in my opinion. Floyd Central losing to Franklin, who came in with a less than 500 record. And Floyd was one of the top 10 teams, had beaten Cathedral. Man, that's just a big upset. Congratulations to them. Unfortunately, they can't get it done in the nightcap against North. They lose by 6 or so. But that had to be an exciting regional there.
Yeah, but we talked off the air before we came on here. That underscores one criteria for who has a chance to win is the Franklin Floyd Central game. Franklin probably has the most talented player on the floor that game, and sophomore point guard Micah Davis. And they've got a young team. I think if you were to ask Coach Moss this year what he thought over the next 2 years, he probably would tell you that he thought next year would be the year they would break through and get through a sectional and maybe challenge for something, for a regional championship. But they've got some young kids that shoot the ball pretty well, and Micah can set them up. I have no clue what kind of game Micah had, but again, like I said before we came on the air here, when you have to put that many resources toward a kid, it creates openings for other people. And Floyd Central is usually a pretty reliable defensive team, and I mean, I'm definitely surprised. But again, I think Micah Davis is probably the most talented player on the floor of that game.
Any other surprises for you in this tournament?
Oh, I think Kokomo getting through. I mean, but again, as good as Braden Smith is, there's a chance Flory Badunga, Kokomo, the 6'10 sophomore, is the most talented player in that game. And he's every bit the game changer that Braden is. He's every bit the game changer that Fletcher Lawyer is, who Westfield beat to get to that point. And that's where I was. I was at Logansport, and you couldn't find more a roller coaster series of events than how each one of those 3 games played out. I mean, the team that won was not the team that led going into the fourth quarter. And in the Westfield beating Homestead and Kokomo beating Westfield, both teams were up 3 or 4 possessions heading into the fourth quarter, only to get sort of blitzed in the fourth and losing. So that Kokomo getting through was a surprise. How it happened was a surprise. But they definitely have talent. And again, they're mostly juniors and sophomores. So Kokomo's not going to be going anywhere anytime soon. Other than that, I think things played kind of according to plan. I think you could have made a case that undefeated Monroe Central, not that they got beat, because Carroll's only got one loss and they're a good team, but losing to the point spread was probably a bit surprising. And maybe that Jacksonville came out of Martinsville. I know they're having a good year, but we do put a little emphasis on what type of schedule teams like Indy Met and Indianapolis Lutheran play versus other schools. But other than that, I think it went according to form. So
I'm just reading some stuff from Kyle and Edenrip. Only one runner-up from last year. Leo in 3A is still around.
Yeah, everybody else got beat.
So you got a lot of new blood. It looks like coming into the tournament, and that's what we talked about. That this was a tournament that was wide open, kind of like the college tournament. That there's no distinct favorite. That you don't know who. 4A top-ranked Chesterton stayed unbeaten at 28-0. They're going to play Kokomo, the team you just talked about, in the semi-state at Lafayette Jeff. Kokomo's first regional championship since 2011.
Just to give you an idea, we've talked a little bit about how the senior class isn't that deep, and the most recruited, or the best senior in terms of recruitment in the state finals is Tayshawn Comer's going to Eastern Kentucky. Or you can split that up, and Jackson Edwards is going to Morehead State, but there's none of those high major guys broke through. There just wasn't that many. It's just not a very deep class. And then the junior class, again, there's just not that one guy who can really carry a team. I do think JQ Roberts is getting to a point where he can. I know that we talked a little bit on the pod that we recorded last night about how well he shot the ball this weekend, and not something that I got a chance to see, but certainly something. Oh, I'm wrong on that. Hold on. Let me get back to the Central Noble thing. Yeah, Connor Asijan going to Wisconsin, that would be the biggest recruit. But again, so the biggest recruit is still like Caleb First last year, a 2A, coming from a 2A team. To backtrack my thought, sorry.
It's all right. I was also
change gears mid-sentence. Not bad.
Hey, that's good to be moving on the fly. Tony says that his alma mater, North Davies, will be playing at Seymour for the 1A title. So congratulations to them. Joe, Providence over. Yeah, Providence. They're still going over Linton. Small schools down there in southern Indiana. Over Linton was a surprise. The Pioneers are going to the semi-state. Lance,
but their
is Lance
schedule.
still I wonder if Lance Lance is still
he is.
still
So is Dan,
yep.
and so is Dan Block. So they got two coaches down there that are IU connected. Dan was a manager and at Indiana, and had been an assistant coach at different places, and he's no longer coaching at the college level, at least, and he's just a typical businessman in Southeast Indiana.
Well, good for him, and congratulations to those guys. Big matchup coming between Bloomington North and Cathedral, the big men there, both IU giving them a look. So that's something to think about for fans.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I mean, I'll be up at Elkhart probably watching 2A and 3A matchup, but the Cathedral Bloomington North is pretty enticing matchup. I think Cathedral's going to have a little bit too much depth for them. They just got a lot of options. I think overall they shoot the ball better, and they have the bodies to put on JQ, and he's going to have a big game, I think, for them to prevail. Or Cathedral's just going to have to draw a big blank from the perimeter, because they've got a lot of guys that shoot the ball pretty well. But even though two of their better shooters are both bigs, they do have the ability to space the floor, which opens things up for Comer.
Yeah, Bloomington North seems to be kind of limited. Their JQ you've got keeping him off the boards is almost an impossible job. That dude just is a rebound machine. But they seem to have one other player, and they're kind of limited there. But hey, they're in the semi-state as well.
Yeah, I mean, Kleiber is just a tough kid. He's our 6'1", 6'2" senior point guard. Extremely strong. He's been injured for part of the year. He's actually had some injuries throughout his high school career, but it's good to see that he's going to get a chance to finish out at least healthy so far. They had a kid named Futch, one of their other guards, who scored well against Franklin in the regional final. But their calling card is mostly in the defensive end. I'm surprised that Bloomington North, that game was, both those games were in the 60s and 70s in the one case for North, because they're usually lower scoring games where they're the defensive antagonist.
Yep. Let's see. We've got to take no, we're not quite there yet, are we? Let's see. What's the matchups you're expecting in this weekend? Some of your favorites. I know where you're going, but other than where you're going.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's Chesterton and Kokomo. Chesterton's still undefeated. Kokomo, the same uphill battle. They're going to have the best talent on the floor in Badunga, but Chesterton's got more weapons, more depth. They played 9 guys pretty consistently. Cathedral, Bloomington North, obviously. The other matchups, 3A, Mishawaka, Marion, and Leo. That's going to be where I'm at, up at Elkhart. Beech Grove and Sullivan. Again, Beech Grove comes into the state tournament with 6 losses, I think, but extremely tested. Sullivan's having a great year. I think they're coming in. They've got Randy Kelly's their best player, and they got one of the Hills kid moved in last year from Illinois, was one of those COVID transfers. He stayed, so that was a big boost for them that he was able to stay and play. And 6'6" kid that gave them some size that they probably didn't previously have. Central Noble and Carroll end up also going north, so that'll be the other matchup I get to see. Eastern Hancock plays Providence, the other 2A matchup, and then the 1A teams are Gary 21st Century versus Lafayette Central Catholic, Jacksonville versus North Davies. Again, Davies, LCC, and 21st Century, all schools that schedule up as much as they can during the season. And Jacksonville is they've been really good of late. I mean, they have the occasional down year, but they've been able to churn out some pretty decent teams here this century, at least this century. So,
well, I'm looking forward to it as always, man. And there's so much going on in Indianapolis with them being a tournament site. Mm-hmm. And you've got the IHSA going on back full life.
And none of these are in Indy. None of the semi-states are in Indy, which is pretty typical. Elkhart, Lafayette, Jeff. The Elkhart one has usually been in Huntington, or has recently been in Huntington. And then the standards down south are Seymour and Washington. So really the smallest gym in use for those who listen that are out of state, not from this area, the smallest gym that's in use this weekend is Lafayette Jeff, checking in like at around 6,800. So some pretty darn good venues to be watching high school basketball.
Absolutely, and I expect that they will be mostly full for the weekend as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they will.
It's a great time. Get tickets. Get your tickets. Get out there and watch you some high school basketball. If you're not going to watch a collegiate game someplace, which you'd have to be going to Dayton today and going to Portland this weekend.
One thing on that ticket note before we get away from it, make sure if you do decide to go to these games, make sure they're not credit card or debit card only venues. A lot of places have stood with their COVID policies of not taking cash at the door. So make sure that you're checking into that before you head out to one of those 4 locations.
Just get your ticket in advance.
There's that. Online, it's easy.
Solve all your problems. Jim, I can't thank you enough as always, man. Looking forward to see what happens this week in high school basketball because it's Indiana and it's always fun.
Well, for me it is.
Absolutely. We'll look forward to seeing it again next week, man. We've got more coming up. We're going to hear from Mike Woodson. We'll hear from Rob Finnessy, and we'll get your all's comments as Indiana heads off to Dayton to take on Wyoming in the NCAA play-in game. Back with more, brought to you by the Courtroom in Bedford right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you as always.
Was that it for me this week?
Yeah, we're just going to do college or IU stuff. We got a lot of clips to get to and all that crap.
Yeah. Cool. All right, guys. We'll see you.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Yeah, 2 from Woody,
All
2
right.
from Rob, and then comments, whatever you need to do. And like I said, they're all kind of, I mean, as you would expect, talking about the same thing. So, but with slightly different takes.
I'm doing the Pizza X. They have a
I've also got the selection show reaction. I don't really know if you want to show that, but you can if you want. Make sure before you sign off too, if you want to promote Indiana Rivals again and the bracket challenge.
what? Can you put up the bracket challenge information?
Yeah, I will. I already put a tweet out about it earlier on from your account as well, so that's been taken care of.
Bracket challenge and the Hoosier. $22. No holla.
All right, here we go.
You can also find full episodes of Indiana Sports Beat Radio on the homepage or on the station every week, Monday through Friday. If we're not on a station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. This segment is brought to you by K-Bello. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat. Brought to you by Cabello Restaurant, located here in Bloomington on the square, the former Grazie location. Incredible food. You have a chance to stop by there if you're coming to the women's games, as the women will get to host a couple of tournament games here in Bloomington. The men hitting the road. If they lose that game to Illinois, they're probably playing here tonight or tomorrow in the NIT. That's how close it was for Indiana. But they are heading to Dayton and then heading to Portland if they win, which is ridiculous. But we can sit there and complain about that all day. I'll tell you who's not complaining about it. Rob Fennessy and Mike Woodson. They met with the media yesterday in regards to making the tournament, getting past all that stuff. Hey, Mr. Reynolds, how are you, sir? Appreciate you very much. Let's hear what Rob had to say as he talks about making this tournament.
Yeah, we were super nervous, just super anxious, just because we were the last region. So we were I mean, every time a region came up, we thought we were going to get chose. So we were the last region. Everyone just super anxious about it. But yeah, everyone's just super excited, and I know we just have to get right to work and get ready because quick turnaround Tuesday against Wyoming at Dayton, like you said. So yeah, guys are just super excited and just ready to go.
And it is a quick turnaround because not only is it a turnaround physically, mentally, and all that stuff, which I know Woody says they're 20, they can bounce back, which is true, but it is a ton. I mean, these guys have played a ton of games and a ton of games in a row. Now you've got to turn around. You've got to study your opponent, scout that, to travel to the West Coast and the earlier games, unbelievably ridiculous. It's almost a no-win situation for Indiana. If they're able to beat St. Mary's, if they're able to get past Wyoming, but then do all this turnaround travel, get out there, scout, and beat St. Mary's, that would be a miracle. But you know what? It's possible. Everything's possible. We'll see how it happens. Looking forward to it. Let's hear what else Rob had to say. Is he gets to play in his first tournament. None of these guys have made the NCAA tournament since they've been here. So looking forward to that for them. But let's hear what Rob had to say.
Oh, yeah, super excited. I mean, just not knowing if we were going to be in the tournament going into the Big Ten. Big Ten tournament was huge. So just those two games were huge for us. And, I mean, everyone's just looking forward to going down to Dayton and playing against Wyoming because, I mean, everyone knows we haven't been to the tournament since 2016, so it's huge for our state, huge for our fan base, and everyone's just looking forward to it.
They are. They certainly are. I wonder what the travel will be like for how many fans will be over in Dayton tomorrow. That's a short trip, so I would think especially all the folks that live on that side of the state that don't get to see Indiana play much. That's a long trip from Richmond, Indiana to Bloomington. But man, not very far to Dayton. So you got a lot of folks that can slide over there and get to see Indiana that don't normally get to. So that should be a good situation for Indiana, which will be helpful. Indiana's probably going to need that, a little bounce back after playing this weekend. But you got a Wyoming team that's also flying in from the West, so they have to fly in. So they've got it going on as well. Indiana, honestly, I don't see them having problems with Wyoming as long as they can continue their rhythm that they're in and not be affected by it. Other than that, Indiana's too good. If they continue to play the way they have, running their offense, they have run the offense. They have looked for better shots most of the time. And that has been a gigantic difference. Of course, Xavier Johnson has made a huge difference in his last 6 games, averaging 18 points, 7 assists, all that. Trace Jackson Davis's play has risen to be consistent and solid in all of these games, and that will have to continue for Indiana to continue. Interesting possibility down the road if they can get to UCLA and our buddy Michael Lewis. That would be very interesting. We'll see if that happens. Of course, that's putting the cart before the horse. Woody met with the media yesterday as well. And, you know, there was a lot of pressure on him. He came in after Indiana has missed the tournament, replacing a coach who was paid $10 million to leave. That puts pressure on you, even though it sounds like it doesn't. All the pressure was on them. No, you have to come in and be the guy. And for the mistakes that he might have made early in the season and this team, how they just couldn't come together for a while, have finally done that. And you got to give him and his staff credit. They got him together. They got him to a turn. They got a hodgepodge mismatch of players from all over to finally come together, and they're going to play in the NCAA tournament. Let's hear what Mike Woodson had to say.
Well, again, this is not about me. It's about our program and the work that these players have put in this season to get to this point. And now we're here, We got our marching orders this evening, and so now we got to start prepping and getting ready to play Wyoming.
Well, that was a quick one. Yeah, and that's what they've been doing since last night. Scouting, prepping, and then you've got to have somebody else scouting and prepping for St. Mary's. You've got to be prepared for that next game. So I don't know if they're preparing for three teams or not. They very well might be. Might have to do that. Kind of doing it on the fly. Sid asked, what time is the game, the play-in game tonight? 9:10? Yep, 9:10 p.m., I believe. Yeah, there you go, right behind it. Forrest says 9:10 Eastern. Forrest says he thinks with Indiana making the tournament, the Trace and Race will not come back. Very good possibility. Roger lives, I'm going backwards, so I'm not sure where he's talking about. But we have another clip from Woody. I'm not sure. I can't remember. What's he talking about here, John?
It's more of a continuation of the last one.
All right. Then let that fly.
Well, again, I mean, that's what it's all about, man. You come to college. If you come to college to play basketball, you come to try to make the tournament and get an education. And, a lot of these guys have been sitting on the sideline for some years, watching, NCAA basketball being played in March and never really knowing what it's about. And now they get an opportunity come Tuesday to play in the tournament and win and perhaps move on to Portland, Oregon to face St. Mary's. So, I mean, I think it's a beautiful thing. I'm so thrilled because these guys have worked their butts off to get to this point, and I want to see them move on. I want to see us continue to win. That's what it's all about.
That is what it's all about. Exactly. Players come to Indiana to play in the NCAA tournament, and that has come to fruition. And congratulations again to Al Durham. They're getting to make their run. Got him a nice Big East championship. Congratulations to him. Who else? Is anyone? Which other? Sister Jean. That means from South Bend. Daggone it.
Loyola Chicago.
Yeah.
Armand Franklin lost. He didn't get he's not going to be in the
tournament
with Virginia.
Oh, yeah, I know, but I was not. Jerome Hunter is. Did Xavier make it?
I
think they did.
If they were in the bracket,
but not only did Xavier make it, I think you got Loyola Chicago, who that's where the kid from South Bend transferred to. So Indiana's going to have three former players in the tournament.
Xavier is not in the tournament; they're in the NIT.
Ah, well, I take that back then. I thought they made it. So, and then when does Indiana women play? They play on Friday or Saturday?
Let's take a look.
Because that's a 1-game delay in when the women's tournament starts.
They play Saturday.
There you go.
Time to be determined.
Woodson says Bill says Woodson has also done a good job of managing the roster with the injuries the team has had. There's something to that, man. You've lost Trey Galloway a good portion of this year. You lost Rob Fennessy. And not only that, this roster is not that deep. You found out they're not that deep. So yeah, he has done a good job of they all had to come together, including Mike Woodson. He had to come together with his coaching and his rotations and all that. It took a while for this stew to come together, but it did. So enjoy it. Enjoy it, Indiana fans. They're in the tournament. I just hope that they win. I'd hate to see them lose in the first four in. That would be just utterly devastating. It looks like the women
That game will play at 1:30 p.m. Saturday at Assembly Hall in Bloomington. That's Kettert. So looking forward to that. Hopefully they can get through the tournament.
I got another tidbit of news for you that
or exceed their Elite Eight finish last year. Yeah, go ahead.
Bellarmine obviously won their conference tournament, but was ineligible for the NCAA tournament. They also got left out of the NIT. I'm not sure how that works, but that is interesting, to say the least.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. Well, because they come from a league that's just not strong enough to get 2 bids, I guess. But that's a shame. It's a shame when you win the tournament. I think that should have been something done differently with that. Winning the tournament and not getting in. If you're going to have the rule that keeps them out of that, gee whiz, surely you can put them in something. That's ridiculous.
And they opted out of the CBI because, I mean, I don't have a reason.
Yeah, screw the CBI. The CBI is the dumbest thing it's ever been.
It is stupid.
It is the dumbest thing. It's a tournament that you pay to enter. You pay an entry fee. It is ridiculous. I mean, that should be ended immediately.
I just don't understand how they don't qualify for the NIT or what if that's part of the postseason deal with not being able to go. I don't know how that works, but
maybe. Who's going? Who's going to Dayton? Anyone going to Portland if they go? I mean, I'm heading to Dayton. Got to start preparing as soon as we get out of here. They got practice tonight. If you're heading over there, 6:45. And if you're just not going to the game, you can go watch them practice for free tonight. So you can get in on that. But yeah, Indiana has got a tough row as far as the demand that's going to be placed upon them. It's going to take a hot minute, but they could be playing 6 games? Like I said, 6 games in 10 days. It's an amazing. We have any more clips, John?
No.
Okay. I just want to make sure that I wasn't missing something. But yeah, who all's going to Steve Hines? He'll be in there. You go. Steve's going to be in Dayton. Jennifer's going to Portland if they win. So
we do have the team's reaction. I do forget I had that.
Oh yeah. Play that for a second.
Let's take a look.
We will play the winner of the first
One thing not shown from that.
That's exciting. That's exciting radio.
The women's team were all dressed in candy striped jackets.
I've seen those before though. But yeah, I noticed that. But that's the first time they've all been together like that in one. You know, the funny thing is, if it's Adidas that's making that, they don't sell that stuff, to my knowledge. Like with baseball, they don't sell a lot of the merchandise, and it's ridiculous. So, but yeah, those jerseys or jackets rather, I saw a couple of them wear those before, and people ask, "Oh, where can they get that?" Well, the NCAA owns the NIT, right? But I still don't understand why Bellarmine can't play in the NIT. It has nothing to do with the the NCAA tournament. They can't play in the NCAA tournament because they're only in year 2 of the 4-year transition to Division I. Is that the same for the NIT? Really? I mean, it's ridiculous enough that it's like that for the NCAA tournament, but much less for. Right. That's for the NCAA tournament. I understand that. But again, why in the world would that count for the NIT tournament? That's just ridiculous.
I'll have to check in to see that. I guess it has to be true. It's the only reason they would not be going, but it's dumb. That's right. Don't forget, John's got us set up for a bracket or challenge bracket under Indiana Sports Beat. You can do that. So we'll end up giving away some hats and visors for that. Join our bracket challenge, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on the ESPN Tournament Challenge app. One bracket per user. I'm going to have to go in there and fill that out today as well. I've got to go out. Pizza X has one. I may have to put that one out as well. I'll tweet that one out. But I am going to jump into that one as well. So looking forward to that. Speaking of pizza, I could eat some pizza right now. I'm so hungry. We've been going at the Big Ten tournament. They're very nice. They take great care of you, but the timing of when they feed you is not good, because it would always seem like it was when you were covering your game or going into a post-game press conference and you come out and the food's gone. It's like, golly, they didn't just leave it out. So third world problems, right? Hey, thanks a lot again for everybody coming along today. It's always a pleasure. And when without you, we have no reason to be here. Thanks a lot to the great Don Fischer, of course, Dustin Dopirak as well, and Jim Reamer. Almost forgot. Yeah. So, and of course, John, a producer. And once again, most importantly, thanks to you guys. Make sure you stop by and check out our friends at Cabello and Southern Stone and all the great places on the WOW Network, and get your WOW card. Go to your app store to get that taken care of you. Next time you hear me, I'll be coming to you from Dayton. Be headed that way next as Indiana takes on Wyoming in the NCAA tournament play-in game. Hope you had a great time. I did as well. Looking forward to doing it again tomorrow, and we will be doing the post-game show as well. Until then, this is Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.